Okay, let's dive into this, because today we are unpacking a really fascinating medical mystery, one that pretty much flips the script on everything we thought we knew about protein, aging, and our diet. For years, right, the wellness world has just been obsessed with protein, packing it into literally every meal and snack possible. But a massive epidemiological study out of Harvard, paired with some groundbreaking clinical research from the University of Southern California, has uncovered a shocking paradox. It turns out how we think about protein might actually be driving the exact diseases we're trying so hard to avoid. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to decode the longevity diet and uncover the secret hidden right inside the building blocks of your food.
To really grasp just how massive this paradigm shift is, we've got to look at the numbers. Researchers analyzed data from over 200,000 health professionals in the U.S., and they found this jarring statistic: a 105% increase in the risk of type 2 diabetes among the folks who consumed the highest amounts of animal protein. Just let that sink in for a second. That is more than double the risk of developing diabetes, simply correlated with eating the highest amounts of animal-based proteins. Wild, right?
So the crucial point is this absolute paradox of healthy intentions versus dangerous outcomes. Because you might be thinking, well, hey, maybe the people eating all that meat were also just eating a bunch of junk food and sitting on the couch. But the data shows the exact opposite. The people in that highest animal protein group actually had way healthier lifestyle habits overall. I mean, they consumed 9% fewer total calories. They drank 74% fewer sugar-sweetened beverages, 35% less alcohol. They were actively trying to be healthy. Yet, despite eating fewer calories and cutting out sugar, they suffered a 34% higher rate of being overweight or obese, and of course that doubled diabetes risk we just talked about. The old calories in, calories out rule, it completely fails to explain this.
Section 1. Protein Secret. Meat, methionine. To solve this mystery, we really have to stop using the word protein as just this big catch-all term. It's kind of like saying fat. It doesn't actually tell you if you're eating heart-healthy olive oil or deep-fried lard, you know? Plant-based and animal-based proteins have shockingly different chemical makeups. And the true culprit behind this whole paradox isn't the protein itself, it's a very specific building block hiding inside of it: meat methionine. This is an essential amino acid, which just means our bodies absolutely need it, but we have to get it from our food. Now, methionine is highly concentrated in animal proteins, and here's exactly why that matters. Methionine has a direct molecular connection to specific nutrient-sensing pathways in your body, particularly one called mTOR. When you flood your system with methionine, it essentially signals your body to accelerate cellular aging. When researchers look back at that Harvard data, they realized the group with the highest animal protein intake was consuming an astonishing 82% more methionine than the lowest group. It wasn't the calories driving the disease, it was all that methionine accelerating aging and metabolic dysfunction.
Section 2. The Methionine Balancing Act.
So we're facing a classic Goldilocks problem here. Decades of literature show that severe methionine restriction is incredibly powerful for extending lifespan and improving metabolic health. But if you restrict it too much, especially as you get older, you actually trigger dangerous muscle wasting and frailty. Basically, you might live longer, but you'd be way too weak to actually enjoy it. And this brilliantly illustrates what scientists found when they tested this exact balancing act in the lab with older mice. These were equivalent to about 60 to 65-year-old humans. Both the high-fat, high-sugar Western diet and the high-fat, low-carb keto diet actually increased fat mass and increased physical frailty, all while reducing overall health span. But then they tested a specialized formulation, a low-amino acid longevity diet, carefully supplemented with just enough methionine to prevent that muscle loss. This group saw a decrease in fat mass, they preserved their muscle strength, and they significantly improved their cardiometabolic markers. And they did all of this without even having to restrict how much food they ate.
Section 3. The Longevity Diet, or LDMM.
This breakthrough formulation is called the Longevity Diet with Moderate Methionine, or LDMM for short. And it wasn't just created out of thin air in a lab. The researchers modeled it directly on the traditional dietary patterns of populations that are already known for their exceptional longevity. We're talking about diets from Mediterranean areas like southern Italy, Greece, Spain, and Okinawa in Japan. These cultures historically consumed diets that were naturally low in protein and methionine. The biological changes triggered by the LDMM are just profound. When you adopt this dietary pattern, it naturally spikes GLP-1. And yes, that is the exact same hormone targeted by today's blockbuster weight loss drugs. It also spikes growth hormone and a metabolic regulator called FGF21. At the exact same time, it actively lowers IGF-1, which is a well-known marker for aging. So what's the end result? Well, the body becomes highly insulin sensitive, it drives down fat mass, and thanks to that crucial moderate dose of methionine we talked about, it completely protects your lean muscle mass.
Section 4. LDMM Ingredients and Foods. Let's move to and see how this builds from laboratory mechanisms to what this diet actually looks like on a plate.
Because look, science only really matters if we know what to actually put on our plates, right? If we want to mimic these incredible metabolic benefits, we have to look closely at our food choices. Just look at the balance here. On the high methionine side, we've got our beloved Western staples: meat, dairy, eggs, bacon, chicken, hamburgers. Delicious? Absolutely. But they are incredibly dense in the exact essential amino acids that overactivate those aging pathways if you consume them in high amounts. Our love for bacon might literally be betraying our cells. On the flip side, the low methionine side, we have our plant-based protectors, things like legumes, chickpeas, and a huge variety of vegetables. By shifting the bulk of your intake to these low methionine foods, you naturally lower your aging burden while still getting plenty of solid nutrition.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the macronutrient profile of the longevity diet. It completely shatters modern dietary trends. I mean, for years now, we've been told to cut carbs and eat just massive amounts of protein. But look at this breakdown: 59% carbohydrates, 30% fat, and only 11% protein. It is a high carbohydrate, relatively high fat, and low protein diet. But remember, we are not talking about refined sugars and trans fats here. These are complex, plant-based carbohydrates and healthy fats. It perfectly mirrors those traditional Mediterranean and Okinawan diets before they ever became westernized.
To get incredibly specific on the exact foods, when the researchers customized this diet for their clinical studies, they used a very precise, pescatarian-leaning ingredient list. The bulk of the diet was made up of a super diverse vegetable mix featuring 15 different vegetables, paired up with chickpeas and potato starch to give them those complex carbohydrates. And for healthy fats, they leaned heavily on olive oil and fish oil. Now, what about that tiny 11% slice of protein? They used a limited amount of fish meal. Finally, they made sure the exact right amount of moderate methionine was present to bridge that gap between anti-aging restriction and muscle-preserving strength. It really is a masterclass in using food as a targeted biological prescription.
The science here is crystal clear. We really have to evolve past just simply counting our total grams of protein and blindly assuming that more is always better. The source of your food dictates its chemical code, and that code tells your body whether to hit the gas pedal on aging or to protect and repair itself. Next time you sit down to eat, you aren't just filling your stomach. You're sending a direct message to your cellular longevity pathways. So will you rethink your next meal's amino acid profile for a longer, stronger life? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to look a little closer at the true building blocks of your diet.